A very good morning and welcome on today's edition of the program Stethoscope. Welcome on Radio Nigeria, Abuja National Station. On Highland FM today, we shall be taking a look at zoonosis. Now, on the program Stethoscope, it's important to know that all shades and colors of issues and or disease conditions that affect humanity, it's within the scope for consideration. And please, for comments and contribution on the program Stethoscope, you can text a message as an SMS to 0803-625-4185. Again, welcome on the program Stethoscope, and my name is Kichime Gotau. Stay with us. With me in the studio today is a consultant veterinarian by the name Dr. Babajide Abola. He is a consultant on biodiversity management as a veterinary doctor. Dr. Abola, you're welcome to Radio Nigeria Highland FM studio.
Thank you, Kichman. It's nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, zoonosis is a term given to infectious diseases, I suppose. But our listeners would like to know more about what animal diseases are as we look at the topic, for today, which has to do with disease conditions associated with animals, be they bushmeat or domestic beef and mutton or name it. So what is your take on this diseases, animal diseases that affect the meat we so consume, whether they be bushmeat or the normal beef or all manners of meats that we consume?
Thank you very much, Kishma. Now, first of all, we have to define what zoonosis is. Zoonosis is the term given to infectious disease condition that affect human being but transmitted from animals. And then you can have a situation where human beings too will transmit the disease to animals. When human beings transmit disease to animals, it's referred to as reverse zoonosis or anthroposis. Now, for the discussion today, which is the
disease conditions associated
with health risk.
Fantastic. The health risks or
disease condition associated with handling of and consumption of bush meat.
The bush meat, for example.
Now, there are a couple of diseases. First of all, let me just highlight some of the diseases, then we'll take them as the program goes on.
Okay.
You have anthrax, Lassa fever, monkeypox, bird flu, Ebola hemorrhagic fever, and the popular SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. Now, the six I've mentioned are things that we are all used to. A lot of us have heard about it.
The anthrax.
Anthrax.
Are there popular names for like anthrax, Lassa fever? Is there a popular name for
apparently, there is no popular name.
The monkeypox?
No popular name. No popular name. Okay. Then we go to the plague. There is leptospirosis, salmonellosis, tuberculosis, African green monkey disease, rabies, yellow fever, infectious hepatitis, ringworm, and ticks. Now, you find that the range of these diseases, they range from viral condition to bacteria. And then we have some of them are ticks, and you have fleas being responsible. Now, if we take anthrax, for instance, anthrax is a disease condition caused by a bacteria known as Bacillus anthracis, and there are three forms of the disease. That's the cutaneous form, gastrointestinal form, and then inhalation form. Now, this disease is such that out of 135 people that came, 134 people who came down with the infection. 92% of them are known to have showed serious signs of the disease, and then 7% that died of the disease. Anthrax apparently affects wildlife.
This research was conducted
by WHO.
WHO.
Yes.
Is there any local partner, local stakeholder
no.
in terms of?
It's just a survey that they did a while back.
Okay.
Now, anthrax affects mostly herbivorous animals, but other animals too show signs. Now, human beings can get this condition when hunters go hunt animals without knowing the health status of the animals, bring them home. When they are processing it, the thing about anthrax is once you cut the animal, the spores goes into the air, and when inhaled, you now have the respiratory form. Now, the cutaneous form affects the hands.
How do you mean cutaneous?
On the skin.
Okay.
So it affects the hands of those who process meat. And from anthrax, we go to Lassa fever.
Okay.
Lassa fever, it was made popular a couple of years ago when two missionaries came down with the condition in the village called Lassa, and it's an acute viral illness. Acute in that you just see the disease condition, and before you say Jack Robinson, the person who is infected is dead. And it occurs in West Africa, Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. And it's transmitted by rodents, multi-mammate rats. The species Mastomyas, which is a popular rat that we see around our household. And it's one of the rats that children go about chasing all over the place for consumption. So this tells you how easy this infection can be passed to human beings. You know, the range of the disease condition definitely goes beyond this area, because the rat that causes it can be found in a lot of places right across West Africa to Central Africa. Now, the disease condition, as I said, is very acute, and once it sets in, before you say Jack Robinson, the patient is dead. And Lassa fever is an infection in the area that infected a range of 100 to 300,000 people per year, and 5,000 deaths in a year. So it's of very great health importance, and if we don't really take note of such infection, our health system is really strained. Now we have the Ebola hemorrhagic fever. This one doesn't occur in Nigeria, as at now, it hasn't been reported, but it's named after a river in DRC. And it's also a fatal form of viral condition which affects humans and non-human primates. You know, the infection is transferred to human beings by those who go hunting for what they call fine boy in Cameroon. That is gorillas and monkeys. And it is a very virulent condition.
What do you mean by virulent?
In that once the infection sets in, it spreads like wildfire. And it has what you call an amplifier effect in health circles, where whoever treats family members who come in contact with somebody who has the infection catches the infection.
Okay. Dr. Abola, you've so far given us the background to the case of disease conditions associated with consumption of meat. You seem so passionate about the fact that the bush meat is more specific, a need for the members of the public to get to know about this. Now, the last case of one of those diseases associated with the consumption of meat or bush meat is the case in Benue State just barely 2 months ago. The last case so far that was made public was the case in Benue State, where a medic and 2 others fell to the disease called the Lassa fever. The listener would want to really know that for years now we've been hearing Lassa fever, Lassa fever. Are these diseases really a threat to the community? Because you have what is seemingly isolated cases, 1, 2 cases here. So perhaps why people are not taking the issues of diseases associated with bushmeat or meat generally is because it is less fatal at a general level. Would you think so?
I strongly disagree with you on that.
Okay.
You see, we have a problem in this country.
Okay.
When somebody dies in your backyard, you say, oh, it's the old woman across the road that caused the death. We don't do proper post-mortem. Nobody wants their loved ones to be opened up. But this is what medicine is about. We ought to go to the end of an infectious situation. That is, when somebody reports a case, you treat. And if the person unfortunately passes on, determine the cause of death by PM. Now, we don't do PM in this place because we think, oh, when we open up our loved ones, they won't get to wherever it is they are going to. So we are not able to really pin down the number of disease conditions that are brought about by this disease. Take, for example, I'll give a case of anthrax that was reported a long time ago. A hunter went, brought an antelope home. By the time he opened up the carcass, they hung it in their kitchen, which apparently is just annexed to the house. By daybreak, everybody was dead in the house because they inhaled the spores, and the spores are very, very active once they are exposed to air. Before daybreak, everybody was dead. Now, instead of calling proper authorities to come in, they burnt the house down. That witchcraft is in there. Now, if not for people...
Where does this happen?
It happened somewhere down south.
Okay. Well.
Now, if not for investigators on zoonotic disease conditions who came and asked questions, they wouldn't have been able to pinpoint that it was anthrax. All the evidence have been burnt off. So we cannot say per se that this is the numbers of death we are having from this kind of condition. So until we have proper data, then we can dismiss the idea that this thing is really killing us. Take, for example, what we have here. Out of, that's in the case of,
which of the disease condition now? The case of...
Lassa fever, still Lassa fever.
Okay.
Where we have...
Now, perhaps you could spare the details, and let's look at what is practically common on the ground in our communities. You wouldn't want to see dog meat as a bushmeat, would you? Are there diseases, because we've talked about hydrophobia, the popular rabies, okay, here, there. All those are animal diseases. And like I said earlier, perhaps it's a repeat, but perhaps this is very necessary. Could it be that the veterinary medical sector in Africa is yet yielding or productive when it comes to available data on what breed, what species of these animals carry this disease that's associated with the animals, the meat we so consume? Because the hype, I mean, the talk about the disease seemed to overwhelm the available disease on the ground in the community. Or worse still, perhaps, if diseases are claiming people, there are no data pointing to the fact that people are dying from disease A, disease B associated with a certain animal disease.
Now, what you just mentioned is a problem with our whole system.
No.
Now, I'll go to the Holy Book,
No.
Proverbs 12, which says,
No.
"The righteous man regards the life of his animals." That means he must have a good knowledge of the health status of all his animals. Now, in this country, we have a situation where, yes, those who are trained to do these things are not empowered. Now, the Federal Livestock have NADIS, National Animal Disease Information System.
Federal Department of
Livestock, yes.
The National Animal Disease Information System.
Now, it has branches in all states.
Okay.
But when you have those who are to monitor diseases empowered only to stay in state capitals, how will they know what is happening in the hinterland?
Absolutely.
So the capacity is there, but the logistics to carry these things to a logical conclusion is not there. And then the political will.
Okay.
Now, we have some political diseases.
Every time you talk about political will,
yes.
And yet the politicians allocate research funds to research institutions. There are research funds, there are fundings both local and international. And so why do we usually have to look at the political
angle?
The angle?
You see, we are a product of our politicians. Okay. The system thrives on decisions made by politicians. Okay. So if they don't get it right, we don't all get it right. Now back to this issue. Now, each state ought to have a biodiversity management agency which will be in position to monitor what's happening to our biodiversity, including wildlife. Now, with that information at hand, they will be able to tell, oh, this disease condition was noticed in 2, 3, 4 animals in this locality. So, if hunters are in there and are hunting this game, this must have been what caused the death of A or death of B. Now, with this data that we have, we can now conclusively say this is what we are having, causing more problem in our communities. Now, in the past, when hunters used to go hunting, it used to be something you pass on from one generation to the other. But now, anybody who just picks up daying gun, goes into the bush as he's a hunter, not knowing exactly what to look out for in an animal that is hunting.
Okay.
So, but if rural communities are empowered such that somebody can be a hunter and make a living from being a hunter, he will know exactly what is being passed down to him from his parents. With that information, he won't go out of his way to indiscriminately hunt any animal. He knows, okay, this animal that I saw is restless, is twitching, there must be a problem with it. Instead of saying, oh, I've gotten an easy hunt, bang, bushmeat for the house. He won't do that. He will immediately report such findings to the NADIS office that, look, I saw an antelope that was staggering and the muscles were twitching, and from what we've heard about, it's showing signs of a disease condition, maybe anthrax.
Okay. Well, when we come back, we will look at the need for a paradigm shift. Don't forget that our people are used to consuming bush animal. They're used to hunting and gathering. It's already part, a way of life in this part of the world. So you're going to be telling us the ways and measures to curb some of this already institutionalized lifestyle in Africa. All the way from Zaria, our friend Edward Abba had to ask some questions that I would like to give them up to you for an answer in the interest of our listener. So we'll be back shortly. The program is Stethoscope, Highland FM's one-stop health, education and enlightenment program. Please don't go away. Now we can a little bit organize stuff. Well done, sir. I'm so sorry for this. No problem. Okay.
What was the question?
Okay, Abbas on from AB Zara. Okay, perhaps we'll take it later. But let's look at the situation here, okay? If you go to the, I'm sorry to tell you that even at Aso Villa, there are bushmeat. If you go to the Senate now,
I'm not against bushmeat.
Fantastic.
We'll come to
no,
that.
of course you're not.
The thing is that we must know the health status of our animals.
Fantastic.
Bushmeat inclusive.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, who are those responsible for knowing this or helping to check the health status of the meat in the bush?
Yeah. We have wildlife management agencies, but that's what I'm saying.
Okay, wildlife management agencies.
They are in Jos.
Is that so?
Yes.
Okay.
The wildlife experts, they are in towns, they are in cities, they are not in the rural areas.
As individuals?
Yes, because the conditions in the rural areas are not conducive for them to live.
Okay.
So that's the problem. So that's why I said we have logistic problems.
Okay. Are you one?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer with them. That's why I have this wildlife disease. It's there. They have things in place. So this is where I have the solutions here. Government should pay attention to wildlife conservation issues by setting up biodiversity management, which will help trust responsibility of monitoring, managing our biodiversity.
Okay, then now the next question I want to ask you is that there are bushmeat all around nooks and crannies of African suburbs. In fact, sometimes this animal stray into the cities and to the towns. Welcome back. The program is Stethoscope, Radio Nigeria Highland FM's Health Enlightenment program. Today we have in our studios here in Rayfield Dr. Babajide Abola, a consultant biodiversity management expert and of course a veterinarian, the veterinary doctor popularly called. Now, Dr. Abola, around the nook and crannies of not just Nigeria but Africa, there are wildlife, there are game, there are animals all around. In fact, sometimes you're driving into towns and cities, you see these wild animals even running into towns, into cities. Now, whose responsibility is it to ensure that these animals there in the wild, or whether in games or in the wild, are in good, healthy condition, so that when the unsuspecting hunter, whether he hunts legally or illegally, is able to gather some of these animals, kill or gather them and collect them and then prepare them for human consumption, these animals are fit for consumption. What agency is responsible for this?
Now, we're going back to what I initially said.
Okay.
Government. Now, there are agencies in place that do this. But government should pay attention to creating biodiversity management agencies, which will be responsible for monitoring and managing our biodiversity, which includes the wildlife. Now, as I said, the government has NADIs in place. I'll give you a classical example. In Namibia, if you have your herd of cattle, any wildlife that comes into your property, you document it. Now, you document what you see and report to NADIs in their own setup.
Absolutely.
So these are things that should be put in place in some of this. It's already in Namibia is Africa.
Absolutely.
So we in Nigeria should put these kind of things in place.
Okay.
Take seminars down to the grassroots where we will enlighten the rural community on wildlife resource utilization programs.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think this program may have to run into addition so that members of the public will get to know more about this. But Edward Abba, 500 level medicine and surgery student of the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Please, we're taking note of your question and I crave your indulgence. Perhaps in the next edition of this program, we try to answer some of these questions. For Dr. Abola, I'd like to thank you for actually coming to our studio to look at this very important health issue, diseases and health risks associated with consumption of meat or bushmeat. Listener, on behalf of the engineer, Emmanuel Ajia, the studio manager, Mr. Ego, my name is Kichime Goyang Gotau, saying, do have a wonderful day and bye for now.